Hello. This is the most strangest, I don't know what you call it. Um, this is my first video I've done on YouTube in a while, and it's going to be a strange video because I'm actually working right now. Uh, but I want to just kind of talk about what was on my mind while I have a chance and while it's still doing, while it's still fresh on my mind and stuff like that. And so I work from home, and so I can uh, on my breaks I can make little videos here, but I don't really take breaks because everything takes so dang long on this computer. Um, so what I wanted to say was I'm into tunes. I'm into music big time. I don't know why. I just always thinking about it. I think about the music theory. I, th- I, I think about music appreciation. What kind of music do I not listen to enough? And let's see, like for example, I'm into all kinds of different music. I've tried to listen to stuff that I normally don't like. I have certain rules about what I won't listen to and will listen to. I won't give any time to certain kinds of music, and there's a good reason for that because it doesn't fit my what I'm trying to get out of music. But I have ventured into that area out of curiosity a little bit, I suppose, and because of certain things that have happened in my influences. Um, uh, Certain influences I have are, what would you call it? I got to explain something. I'm 90% of the time, I have psoriasis. I'll just show a little bit of my psoriasis. I have psoriasis, and it's all over. I think I'll probably eventually go on Humira or some kind of medication for that. Um, so it keeps me up at night. And I also have other issues. I got type 2 diabetes and just basics. I need a lot of sleep and I don't get enough. So I'm brain farts all the time. And that's part of the reason I'm doing this live, because if I tried to do a video that was like perfect and I'm jumping around subjects and stuff, it's just going to be a live uh, stream of consciousness type of thing that I'm doing. Um, and I don't know how successful this is going to be, how many people are even going to bother watching this stuff, because the quality is not going to be, the lighting is not really that great right now. I could probably fix that. But anyway, I'm just going live right now, just kind of checking it out. Just starting this thing off. I don't have any viewers right now, so you start off small. And so I'm just kind of letting you know what's on my mind, what I'm into. Uh, and then just to be interesting, come back and look at this maybe someday and say, hey, this is how it all started, if it does end up becoming something. I don't really expect it to be really a big deal. Um, anyway, so back to the topic, the music thing. So, you know, I'm into all different kinds of music. I've look into stuff. I always want to hear stuff I've never heard. I've developed the ability to be able to appreciate music I've never heard before, just as good as if it was something I've ever. It used to be back in the day, I didn't really like something unless it was really, really interesting. I don't know. I guess I still have the same. I haven't really developed an ability to listen to new music, but I have ability to objectively analyze the music's qualities so that I don't miss something. So something is good. Like for example, you hear something the first time, you just don't get it. You go, well, "What's that?" And then later on, you like it. And then so that aspect of it is something that uh, I pay attention to, and so I end up getting a lot of uh, music on YouTube, Spotify. Um, we don't really have that very good of a system of recommendations, but YouTube seems to kind of recommend things that are kind of in my in kind of in the vein of what I'm looking for sometimes. Lately, it hasn't been that much lately, but sometimes it's like that. And I mean, I'm going to go into everything, go into politics, religion. Uh, I'm basically a Bible believing Christian. I'm not really much of a churchgoer, but and so that's part of what I am and what's going on in my life, my health issues and things like that, and what I think about this and that other thing. And we're in some exciting times. But mainly, I wanted to talk about music and pass on some of the information I know about what's interesting to me. I want to know what you're into. I want people to interact with me. See, I itch myself all the time. It's a terrible habit because of the psoriasis. And that's what, I'm tired. And so I'm like, what? I can't make videos. I really want to make videos, but I can't because I'm always so tired. I can't even think of what I'm doing. And I can't seem to set aside. I'm pretty busy, so I can't set aside any time to do it. So back to the music thing. So one of the things is I did kind of get into stuff. Maybe I should just start the topic off with music I don't like, but I sort of listen to it anyway. And like, for example, punk, I'm not much into punk. Uh, I haven't been exposed that much to punk. However, I was pretty much aware of it pretty early on, I guess. I don't know, because I remember Lou Reed, the Ramones. I think I remember them, uh, especially when they did Rock and Roll High School, and I didn't like that. But then I heard other Ramones later on. I heard they're kind of doing real, just music. They're doing rock and roll music, and that's the thing. If it's rock and roll, I pretty much like it. But the problem with punk is they don't know how to play their instruments a lot of the time, and they don't have good singers. Especially the thing with the singers, you got to have a good singer for me to really listen to if it's singing music, and you got to be able to play your instruments, not like a virtuoso, but um, good sense of rhythm, good chord progressions, and interesting things like that. Um, and I think punk lacks that. It's got another idea that's going on. But on the other hand, I saw a development that I don't think people really give credit to. And really, it really comes down to Bob Dylan. See, I just itch my back. It comes down, and when I'm nervous or anything, I itch more, or when I'm self-aware or whatever, self-conscious or whatever, uh, is Bob Dylan. It's like Bob Dylan. And so he's really expanded uh, what I listen to. And the reason why I talk about Bob Dylan is not because he's a bad singer, like, all the singing style, although I think that's a big part of it. I think other people said, hey, he's just singing lyrics, and you don't have to be this great singer to sing in a band, and so I think maybe Lou Reed got influenced by that. You see a lot of bands like Mott the Hoople's a really good example. They sound just like Bob Dylan there. I'm totally, obviously, Bob Dylan influenced music, but they were the beginning of the glam movement, which pretty much was what the punkers, I think, in England were listening to. A lot of them were listening to David Bowie, Mott the Hoople, T-Rex, probably. A lot of that stuff that was coming out in the 70s, the glam stuff, I think they were listening to a lot of that, and the sounds are very similar. You can hear similar sounds when you listen to bands like Sweet. Is it Sweet? Yeah, I think Sweet, and some other bands that I was not familiar with much of in the 70s, except for Sweet. I did like Love Is Like. Did they do Love Is Like Oxygen? I think they do Love Is Like Oxygen. I like that one. And then, uh, yeah, and there's all this stuff that was going on that I think influenced punk. As far as just the music, it was just not really that punk is a form of music that needs to have some kind of influence. But it just happens to be coincidentally that probably those guys were listening to that kind of stuff before they got into what they were doing musically, and so it ends up kind of having a similar sound sometimes. or at least some of the early punk sounds like that, because that was just what was going on, and that was the generation that was into punk, was these people, kids that were into glam, and then they kind of grew out of glam or whatever. And then anyway, I'm going off too much about that. So I've listened to a little bit. I'm interested in the history of anything, period. I mean, history, pure history, like as in history of, you know, history of the Roman Empire, history of anything. So music is got a history to it, and the development is very interesting. The influences, who picked up what, who was in what band, and I mean, it's just a fascinating. Music is a fascinating topic because it's art, it's history, it's music, of course. It's got people in it. It's business. I'm fascinated with marketing and businesses and how to run a business, and successes are interesting and flops are interesting. The Beatles are interesting because they're really successful, and they progressed from being really kind of Liverpool's worst band to being the best band in the world, and so it's there's a lot of aspects to what's going on, and that's something that really intrigues me. And then also there's different aspects of learning music. You can pretty much, there's ear training, there's music theory. Ear training is when you teach your ear. They call it ear training, and people say there's no such thing as that. Whatever. Why do people get into semantics? I don't know. I'm not into that. I'm not into semantics. If you can understand it, that's all that matters. Who cares what words you use? If I go blagadidinga balungu and you understand it, and most people understand it, the people that don't understand it are people that are into these semantics, But anyway, ear training is what they call it. And ear training is basically when you could recognize the tones, the chords, what the intervals are. And this is kind of meant for general audience, but music nerds are definitely welcome. And it's, so you listen to this different intervals, like you listen to C and a G, and you recognize that way you know what those chords are, and you can recognize the notes. And I'm a bass player, primarily, as far as like playing in bands goes. And when I play guitar, but I usually just want to create some chord progressions when I'm on guitar. And then, so that, see, I lost my train of thought again. So I was talking about, I was talking about ear training, and when I'm a bass player and I'm playing along, and I play a lot of jam sessions, or just rock and roll jam sessions, and usually rock and roll. Sometimes they do other stuff, but I've gotten to the point where I'm bragging, I guess, but I've gotten to the point, I'm proud of it. But I've gotten to the point where, like, I can almost play along with any rock and roll song that I've heard before on the radio a lot of time. All those familiar songs I've heard, you can just tell me to start playing it, and I can pretty much cover at least the chord progression and play something there for the chords. Some songs have more elaborate bass lines, and you have to practice them ahead of time. But even sometimes I can do those bass lines or something pretty close. So it's kind of good to be able to do that, and part of it's kind of ear training. And the guy named Jamie Glaser, he had a course on sight reading, guitar playing while sight reading. I haven't really mastered sight reading. I haven't really gotten into the course, but he said a couple things there that I developed some habits on. And one of them was you can, when you're playing your music, or when you're playing notes on the guitar or whatever, say that note out loud, what that note is, every time you play it. Even if you know what it is, still say it. Keep saying it. Well, I'm like, I don't want to say something out loud. But he said, yeah, really, really say it. And so I did. I said these things out loud. But then later on, I started to just in my head say what note I'm. So it's like a habit of mine. Almost I can't even not do it. And I'm getting in the habit of look at the frets, because I want to look at the fret, think of what that note is that I'm playing, and see where it is on the fretboard every time I play it. And so it got to be a habit that I'm trying to break out of. But because it looks kind of dumb. I'm always looking at the fretboard. People think I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm also trying to learn how to sing and play bass. So that's not going to work. Um, so yeah, I've gotten to train myself to know what notes are being played. It's kind of easy when you got someone playing open chords on a guitar. You can kind of tell because of the way the open chords are structured on a guitar. Open chords are chords that can be played. They're kind of the easiest chords to play, and they all have a different shape to them. They have different strings and stuff you're playing. I don't know how am I supposed to break this down for a general audience. I don't know. If you don't understand, just don't worry about it. So general chords, open chords, I've started to get into that, and now I've got to the point where I can recognize most of the time, and in the condition I'm in, which is half asleep half the time, can pretty much tell what chords are being played without even thinking about it almost, unless it's something really tricky. Like you get to the bridge and all of a sudden it goes into another key, or, it modulates to another key, or it just goes to a different chord that's in, and it sometimes you just can't think of it. But I'm starting to develop that where it's like, I should be able to, and I should listen to this, I should be able to, you give me, as long as you're playing in the scale, you should be able to play any chord that's in a scale, a proper chord, not an inversion, not some strange inversion, something that's got a root note. That's really important. If I hear the root note of the chord, which is like the bass note, if I hear you playing that chord, I should be able to immediately recognize it. Or if I'm actually, what I'm doing is in my head, I'm thinking of that song. And if that song has like a bridge or something that I haven't played yet, we've got the verses down, we got the chorus down. Now we're getting into the bridge, and the bridge goes to some other chords we haven't played yet. We might be playing like C, G, and F, and that'd be in the key of C. And all of a sudden it just kind of wants to throw in a D in there or something, D minor. And that D minor comes in, I should be able to just in my head go, okay, the bridge is coming up and there's going to be a D minor in that. And it's going to start with the D minor. And then while I'm strumming that D minor, I can know, okay, the next one's going to be a C, this is a G and F and all that. I should be able to do that. It's a feasible thing. It's not too hard to do. If I spent a little bit more time working on that, I would be able to do that. And I'm getting really close to being able to do that. And that is a great thing, because if I know the song in my head and it's not too hard, which about like 80% of rock songs are not extremely hard to figure out. The hard part is just the riffs and the if the bass line's kind of complicated, but just the root note that you're on, the chord that you're on, not too hard to figure out for about 80% of rock songs, at least classic rock songs. And then, so I should be able to do that. And imagine that, being able to go to a jam session, and people say, hey, can you play, let's play, Doobie Brothers, Listen to the Music, or some song like that. And I've never even played the song before, but then I go, okay, I know how that goes. That's this, and this. And then you start playing it, and I might not be playing exactly the same riff, but I'm playing sort of like some kind of close to, oh yeah, this has got an alternating bass line here. This has got this kind of rhythm here. Okay, and this has got a run here, and I can do this run because I know the scale, and I can figure out what scale it's in. I go, oh, that's an E. Okay, and boom, boom, boom. I'm figuring all this stuff right away before they even do the count in or start the song. I've already got it down. I already know how the song's going to go, and I just remember how it is, each different part of the song. Now, sometimes you don't know when the parts are coming up, so you have to kind of go, okay, now he's going into this part. All right, now I get, so it might be a little bit of a lag. But that's a pretty cool skill to have, because you can learn songs so quickly. And I can go to these jam sessions and fill in. I can fill in bands and stuff like that. I'll be able to do that. And so if I weren't so tired all the time, I'd be able to quickly learn songs too, but note per note, but that's hard to do. Um, so that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. It's like ear training. Music theory is all part of the same thing. You can't really do ear training unless you know theory. The theory is just, I don't like to say rules about how music works, but theory is, uh, what is theory? Theory is, it's a language. That's what it is. It's a language. It's labels. Uh, Language and a desired effect. So instead of a bunch of rules about what to do, it's a language that describes music, and it's a desired effect that you want. So the theory is that if you play a C and then you play a, or if you play, like if you're in the key of C and you're playing along, you play a B, that's a leading note that gets you to, that you want to resolve by getting to B. So that's an effect of building up tension and resolving the tension. And then if you want to play you want to play a sad song, that's the desired effect, is to make something sad. And so you play a minor key. And so you're playing a minor key, and there's a bunch of math and things that go along with that. And I'm terrible at math, and I can understand a lot of this stuff because it's not simple math, but it's more like patterns. Yeah. And then so then you have all these patterns of flow, and so it's not really rules that you have to go by. And so I got a couple pet peeves about how people approach music theory. I'm not an expert. I'm just a guy that's learning. I'm just a nerd. And then so maybe I should call my channel Just a Music Nerd. I'm not anything more. But and then, but the well, it's like, what was the time? Let's see, brain farts. And I'm having a good day. This is Friday, and I'm all peppy and stuff. And I didn't really drink a lot of coffee. This is actually green tea. It doesn't do anything. Yeah, so what was that about? Dang, that's really cool. Oh, my pet peeves about music theory. I've seen people say, what are commonly used chords? What are commonly used chords? Now, I don't have a problem with commonly used chord patterns. That makes sense. But commonly used chords, that is kind of irks me, because the way I see chord progressions is the same way I look at a melody. Like if you were like to make up a melody, let's make up a melody and goes da da da. Oh, okay, da 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 da, something like that, right? Well, it's the same thing with the chords. You could do the same thing with chords. You go da da da. If you're playing a metal tune or a rock tune, you can play chords that are the same as a melody. It's a riff. It's like what do you call it, a riff? I think it's a riff. And then you can play that, and you're just playing notes that are in the scale. So the chords is the same thing. Chords in a scale. The chords, the commonly used chords of music, are not like 3 chords or something. It's all the chords of a given scale, except for perhaps the 7th degree chord, which can sometimes be it's a diminished, if it's a diminished chord, if it's fitting the scale. They call it, I think it's called harmonic, and it's a harmonic chord or diatonic chord because it fits in the scale. All the notes of the chord are in the scale, in the key that you're playing in. So you can either play a B diminished, or you can play a B minor or B major, or maybe some other key, B augmented, or not play it. And so that's kind of sometimes omitted from music. They don't play the B chord in a C scale. You don't play the 7. And but other than that, so there's about 6 chords that are chords, only six chords that are common chords that are played in most music. And if you limit yourself to just 3 or 4 chords, then you basically are defeating yourself. You're putting your handcuffs on and saying this is all music is, just 3 chords. You don't want to do that. You want to be creative, right? You want to say, hey, I've got 6 chords. And how hard is it to remember 6 chords? Geez, like in the key of C, it's C, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, and A minor. That's it. Um, and now the way I just now remember that in my head was the C. Um, it's like the piano keyboard is like a computer, and you can look at it and say, hey, these are all the white notes. That's C major scale, and that's the A minor scale, all the white notes. And so I can see the C and the D, well, obviously you can't really see if it's a major or minor, but I just listen to it and you can hear it. It's a minor, you know. So anyway, what I was saying was it's not really commonly used chords. What I would accept is common chord patterns. So what I'm saying is that, like, for example, very common chord pattern is that doo-wop pattern of C, A minor, F, and G. Bum, ba, 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 bum, ba, 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 bum, ba, 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 bum, like that. That's very, very commonly used, especially back in the 60s and 50s, and it still is used to this day. Uh, it's a very good chord progression, and it should be used a lot. It's a chord progression bow. It's not commonly used chords. That's a chord progression because it goes from C to A minor to F and then G and then back to C, and commonly another very, very, very common chord progression is they call it the 1-4-5 chord progression, which is if you're in the key of C, that would be C, F, and G. But those are the 3 chords. It's not the progression. The chord progression is more like a 12-bar blues, which would be like you go from C, then you go to G, and then back to C, and then to G, and then maybe F, and then G, and then C. Or no, I'm sorry. You go from C to F to C to F, and then G, F, C. It's like a turnaround. And that's a pattern, a commonly used chord, like a progression. That's understandable. I can, but just commonly used chord. What are the commonly used chords? Don't do that, because then, okay, I just now discussed 2 chord progressions, and one of them had C, F, and G. They both share the same 3 chords. The other one just had an extra chord, an A minor chord. So now I've covered 4. The only ones that are missing from what I was telling you, are the commonly used chords. The commonly used chords, in my opinion, are the 1, which is a major, the 2, which is a minor, the 3, which is a minor, the 4, which is a major in the key, in the major key, the 4, which is a major, the 5, which is a major, and then the 6, which is a minor. And you've got 3 minor chords and 3 major chords. Easy to remember, huh? The minor chords are D minor, E minor, and A minor. And then the major chords are C major, F major, and G major. Now, obviously, I don't have I do have a piano right here. It was stored away here. I could demonstrate stuff on the piano, but this thing is kind of dirty and stuff. I'm not really prepared for this, but this, these white keys, it's this simple. It's like white keys here, 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 and then if you want to play your diminished, you can play your diminished B. So that's C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, and then B diminished, which is the one I said it's not that common to use it. They'd still use it, but it's not that common. But all I'm saying is that you still got this D minor, and I mean, like for example, a lot of people go from C major to D minor, and back to C, back to D minor, back and forth for almost the whole song, and then until you get to the bridge or something. It's that simple. Sometimes it's just two chords that are just that close together. See how it's like it's. Why would you limit yourself? You're not going to play D minor ever or E minor. Like playing C major and E minor together are good chord combination, man, and it's very commonly used also. Um, Progressions have all those chords are very common. You always have D minor. You always have. They're great. They sound great. Play them. If you're a musician or you just want to learn how to play something. Okay, well, I gotta end my stream here. Um, so let me know in your comments or whatever what you think, what you want to do, if you have any questions about music, what you want to talk about, if you have something to share. I've got lots of interesting things to discuss. Probably be doing them at other times. Just today, I was doing it uh, in the morning like this, and without lighting and all that stuff. I might get more organized about it. But if this streaming thing starts working, then I might do it more. I might have more visual aids. I might have music playing in the background. I won't be able to do anything high fidelity or anything like that. But that's what's going on. All right, catch you later.